Welcome, everyone, to the Nerd Journey Podcast, episode 18B. That's part 2 of a two-parter, episode 18. We're going to be joining you every week to talk IT career, news, and opinions based on our points of view. I'm your host, John White, at VJourneyman on Twitter, joined by my co-host, Nick Cordy, at NetworkNerd_. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
I'm doing great, John, aside from the suspense killing me like everyone else. I want to make sure that everyone knows we're both VMware solution engineers looking to bring you the career advice we wish we'd been given earlier in our careers. We hope our discussions will be relevant across disciplines and remain timeless. If you're enjoying our content, please drop us a positive review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you subscribe. And if you want to get in touch with us, tweet or DM at Nerd Journey. Ultimately, we're just two nerds on a journey.
A journey to virtual enlightenment.
So let's take a trip.
Great, Nick. I'm liking that intro.
I like it. Man, our editor's pretty good. I can't believe he did that cliffhanger thing to our listeners because that was pretty nasty.
Pretty mean. Yeah, as you're alluding to, we kind of left part 1 of the interview with Joseph Griffiths on a cliffhanger. But actually, I don't even remember where we left off. Where did we leave off?
Well, it was after the taco story, but I think Joseph was about to tell us about his eye-opening experience at VMworld. I think maybe we should back up just a little bit before that to give context to his story.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good idea. Okay, so here's part 2 with Joseph Griffiths. Except that we'll start with Nick talking.
Maybe it's a misperception because I think in a lot of cases we might think, okay, well, this is how I add value, and maybe I didn't realize how easy it is to automate this, or that I could. I know that sounds silly, but if your eyes haven't been opened, so to speak, then you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways that story that we started out with from VMworld was an eye-opening experience for me. To your point, Nick, of opening your eyes. As I think about this, is my job going to go away kind of conversation in this situation, I go back to, people feeling the fear that they can't change or that they can't grow or they can't do something else. IT workers are the most innovative people I know because they're people whose jobs change. I remember many years ago, I was working with a project manager and she was telling me, I was asking the status of a project. And she said, I can't check my dashboard. We just changed the software we use and it's really hard to learn. And I said, oh, well, how long ago did you change the software? And she's like, 6 months ago. and as I thought of it, I was like, I walked away and I was like, who am I dealing with here? And then I realized something. As an IT worker, I've had to learn something new every single day of my career because there's no way a college degree could prepare me for the complexity of IT. I literally have to get up in the morning and learn something new and do it each and every single day, right? She has a different skill set. She has a communication skill set. She works with people. She coordinates projects. She gets deadlines, right? When it came to the IT portion of learning that new tool, it was so hard for her that it took, 7 months for her to get comfortable with that. That's not a knock on the person. It's just a different skill set. To that point, I would ask this question of you guys, right? Which is, have you ever sat down and just shut down your email client, just close the email client? Or do you repeatedly check it throughout the day?
I have, I'll shut it down from time to time, but I think I'm guilty of being a slave to the notification as a new email comes in, honestly. There will be times where I'll shut it down, but I probably could do it more.
Yeah, I'm a getting things done guy where, the idea is that you open up like maybe a specific set of windows that you do email, like it's a task. I'm going to check my email now. So that's kind of my idea. So I get notifications from 6 to 9. I'll get notifications from 12 to 1 and then from 5 to 6.
Interesting. So two very divergent approaches, right? I think this is representative in my mind, a lot of the IT workers that we have, which is they have become so driven by the notification system that when the notification system, whether it's email or the ticketing system or whatever they get their work assignment from in reactionary models, that by the time they get to the point where they have a break in those things, they just stare at their screen waiting for the next one to come through, right? I've taken an approach a lot like you have, John. I have certain times that I check email, and then I figured email's a 24-hour turnaround mechanism. If you really need something from me right now, you probably ought to get on your phone and call me. And that's something I treated as an immediate mechanism for notification. And I found an amazing amount of efficiency gain by shutting it down, and an amazing amount of people that solve their own problems by the time I get around to answering those questions, right? So I think that we all become slaves to different notifiers or different kinds of reactionary work. And we could all do with a little bit of backing away and saying, how can I be more proactive? If you ever find in your IT career that if you shut down your ticketing system or you shut down your email and you can't think of what you should be doing right now, you've become a slave to reactionary models. And I think people that are in that model are terrified of automation as taking away their job, right? But if they step back and start automating those things, if I think about Google and the way that their site reliability group works, those people did 50% operations and 50% automating away the operations they did during that day. Those people haven't got less work to do. It may be a highly optimized infrastructure, but it's also a highly complex infrastructure. And thus they have even new stuff to automate every single day. And they just keep getting better and better so that the quality of the product to their consumers improves. But they're not out of a job. They're just as busy as they were day one automating.
I would say when you do things like that, you're also more and more important because the time that you're spending is more and more important to the organization, right? If you had that initial vision to orient yourself towards what the business is actually doing, as opposed to what the IT department was doing. And
Well, so, I like to think of it as about 2.5 years ago, Google had an outage because a global outage, because someone committed the wrong thing to one of their network source systems that got pushed out to the whole world. It lasted for 17 nanoseconds. That's exactly how long it took before the automated system detected the error and reverted the change. The value is found in not having global outages for all of your customers, right? That's pretty freaking important for Google at this point. So it's amazing how automation like that drives quality makes a difference. Same thing is true if you think about auto manufacturing, right? Cars that don't break down are cars that people buy. Cars that break down are not cars that people buy. Simple, right?
Yeah, very, very true.
Absolutely.
Did you find in that automation journey that when you were automating things that so I assumed that when you were going to talk about logistics and automation, that you're gonna find that when you automated something, you were actually loading up the downstream, right? Right. When I have an automation process, then it pushes all the work downstream to whoever's supposed to do that next, right? And then you find that that the entire system actually has choke points that you didn't know about, and I don't know, that's the thing that pops into my head when I think about automation. You automate what you think is the choke point, and then you find a new choke point.
Yeah. So if you're a studier of lean or agile methodology at all, or even DevOps for that matter, the consistent argument is there is only one constraint in any flow optimization. The idea is that there's one place that's causing everything else to slow down. Once you've removed that constraint, then there's only one constraint. It moves down, right? So the argument is absolutely what you just said, which is, yes, you're going to continue to find them. This problem is probably why I think that any automation needs to consider the value stream. The conceptualization of the value stream, as I'm talking about it right now, is if you think about what is valuable to the company, and you tie it back to IT capabilities eventually, right? I'm a bank. So mobile banking app is a way that we retain customers between the ages of 20 and 40 because it's something that they want. new features to the mobile app so we can stay competitive with the other banks is critical to be able to do that. What IT capabilities allow us to get more features into the mobile app more often, right? If we can tie back all the way back to that top of that value stream, which is more features more often, which means maintaining and increasing revenue in that target age group, and maybe the way that we've done that is we say, the biggest problem we have today is we need to be able to test changes in this app with 30,000 servers at the same time for some ridiculous reason, right? Maybe what we need to stop. We can't go buy 30,000 servers. We certainly don't want to build 30,000 virtual machines. Maybe we need the burstability of a cloud to be able to do that, right? You need to be able to let go of some of those things that have been traditionally yours, that are true choke points, in order to make sure that you have the business thing. So I see this all the time, the opposite, which is, the people in charge of provisioning are trying to make provisioning better, but they ignore networking, they ignore security, they ignore the need for load balancers and stuff, and just say, look, my job is faster. The buck has moved somewhere else. If you don't look at holistically from the business perspective of why are we doing this, then maybe you're just trying to fry taco shells faster because it makes you happy.
And for some people, that's definitely the case. I know it would be for me, because you kind of made me hungry talking about tacos. But I will say, for listeners out there, if you haven't read The Goal by Elihu Goldratt about lean manufacturing, that's a really good one. And of course, the Phoenix Project, a lot of folks really like that. But what I was going to say, Joseph, we talked about automation, the value stream, but automation is really about you automate something and then you're on to the next iteration. And throughout your career, you went on to the next iteration. So what would you say are some practical tips for listeners who want to get to that next iteration, knowing what you know and having been where you have been on the journey? If I want to iterate faster and I'm a listener, what should I do?
So I'm going to say something that is deeply unpopular, but I'm going to preface it because of the deeply unpopular. I find that a lot of people in technology are essentially introverts. They're not social beings by nature. And it doesn't mean that they don't have deep relationships and all that. I'm a pretty extreme introvert, to be honest with you. But the thing that they need to learn to really iterate faster is an understanding that we are social creatures, and a lot of the people they're dealing with are social creatures. So they need to find a way to interact with those people and a way to have the emotional intelligence to read what's going on in a room, and disconnect themselves from defending the technology. Sometimes, that there are games and methodologies used by social creatures, passive aggressive challenge methodologies, things like that are used. So you really, to iterate faster in your career, one of the things you need to do is you need to go read a couple psychology books and start to think about the why. Why are they doing this? Why are they acting this way? Why are they saying it? What are they really trying to say or do? And that's going to be one of the things that will help you propel your career better than anything else. We often take the approach, both as technologists and as introverts, at least I've been guilty of this, the approach of saying, I think this way, so if I could just help them to see how cool this technology is, they would adopt it and understand the value of it. And it's not the best sales methodology, right? Sometimes we can take people on a journey and help them discover for themselves. But the reality of it is we need to understand the different personal value motivators of people and play to those things. And like I said, that's a deeply unpopular, because even among my close friend peer groups, that would be taken as you're playing the game. No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that you understand that everybody has motivations for what they do. You need to understand, by starting to try to understand other people's motivations, you will better understand your own motivations for what you do, and you'll better be able to find the things that you're passionate about, which will ultimately lead you to more happiness in your career and potentially more opportunities to do what you're would like to be doing.
I feel like you touched on something there, which was learning social interaction and complex systems of social interaction, especially within a business context, to help people understand, why different organizations act certain ways and why different people within organizations act certain ways. And as technologists, sometimes we just, are completely reductive. Oh, that guy's just a blocker, right? That guy just doesn't want to change, or, she doesn't want to do, she just doesn't like any of my ideas. And I don't know, I would like to recommend a book, The Introvert's Guide to Business Social Interaction. I can't recommend that. That doesn't exist. I think I just made up that title, but I feel like somebody should write that book, and then I could read it and recommend it. However, I feel like you mentioned, the existence of books. Are there any, like, in that psychology area that you could recommend that have been helpful to you?
Oh, you're going to ask me a question. The answer is not off the top of my head because I'm not looking at my library right now. I'm at a hotel. So I'll get back to you, and you can mention it on a future podcast with a couple recommendations there with reading. I would say probably the best thing you can do to prepare for it is a lot like other things, because I find that a lot of people in technology learn by doing. You need to put yourself in these situations to learn by doing. One of the things that I had done in the past, because I learn best by doing, and then secondary by reading for me. So books are important. So I will suggest some. But, one of the things in the past that I did was Toastmasters, which is like a speaking group, right? But being able to go to that group and see people who are, I'd say, young executives mostly are in those groups, and try to figure out what they're doing and why they're doing, and talking to them is infinitely useful. Step away from the technology and just talk to people about what matters to them and what they care about and why they care about it, what they're trying to do, and what their thought process is really important. And, introverts generally deal well one-to-one instead of large groups, right? So you can have those conversations and learn things. It's probably one of the hardest things because I readily admit that I initially started a career in technology with my computer science degree because the thing I love about computers is they do exactly what I tell them every time. They follow the rules, right? I'm a bit of a control freak, and I wanted to control something, so the best thing to control are inanimate objects or computers. And I think that's true of a fair number of people that get into IT traditionally. And so we have to kind of let go of that desire of it's so easy to tell a computer what to do and it does it, and understand the complex social that exists for us to be successful in getting some of our ideas, because we're innovators and we've got great ideas, but we've got to do a little bit better pitching it and selling it.
Yeah, totally understand. It's funny. I asked the question and you were talking and a book popped into my mind, but I'm actually hesitant to recommend it, but I will mention it. It's called Rules of the Game by Neil Strauss. And it is, the subtitle is Penetrating the Secret Society of Pickup Artists.
It's a great subtitle.
And how many times have you read this book, John?
I've read it a bunch of times. It's a little bit disturbing, how dedicated people are to becoming pickup artists. But what is interesting about it is, in that subculture, people will study human interaction to the point where they go, oh, if I approach somebody and just, lock eyes with them from 20 feet away and maintain eye contact as I walk towards them, that's very intimidating. But if I don't look at them and then approach them from the side and then talk to them side to side, then it's not as intimidating and people feel more comfortable. And I think a lot of people who are introverts or who don't have a lot of experience with social interaction would not think about things like that. And so it just made me think about just that. Right. And again, I'm hesitant to recommend it because it is talking about this, weird subculture, which can be a little bit toxic at times, I think. But just if you need your eyes opened to the idea that there are systems and, people react in ways for very specific reasons, and then maybe you could think about what those are. It is a book that can open your eyes to that.
That there's a lot of value in what you just said related to the fact that, when I was early in my career, I didn't think about those things or even care that much about them, right? I think it's best illustrated by the first job I got out of college. They were having a retirement party for someone, and my boss comes around. Gets to all the IT guys. He's like, "Come on, we're going to the party," and all of us are just groaning, right? We don't want to go to the party. We don't care. We just want to keep working on our computers, right? And he's like, "We're going to the party. We have to show up for the party." And I realized he was teaching a somewhat interesting principle, which is ultimately, it's important to be seen there. It's important to be seen as supporting that. We all stood in the back talking about geeky things and then left as soon as we could. But, these sort of not even thinking about the impact of my choice of not going beyond how it impacts me. I mean, there certainly is a development of empathy and compassion for others that develops with this. As we start to understand their motivation for things, we can help them with those things and be compassionate to helping with those things. So I do want to, state one quick thing here. It's an interesting conversation of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. I don't want anyone to do anything fake. I don't want anyone to pretend to do something, right? I'm not I think if anything, I've tried to illustrate that it is an iterative process of learning and getting better over time. It's not something you're just going to master, to the pickup artist game, right? I'm not attempting to manipulate people as much as understand them and understand how we can win together. It's a compromise game, not a, not I'm the biggest rooster in the room, right? Kind of game. That's not a Joseph Griffiths thing, because I find that to be artificial and I don't like it. And I just can't do that. It's not honest to me. Right. If I understand what's important to you and I understand what's important to me, can we come up with a solution to where what's important to you and what's important to me achieves together? Right.
Yeah. The avoidance of the zero sum trap, right?
Yeah.
The idea that there has to be a winner, there has to be a loser, as opposed to, hey, how do we all win together? How do you get what you want while I get what I want?
Yeah, I think there's so many opportunities for compromise and win-win situations across everything we do. This isn't a power game for me. It's the reality of the world is that this is the best way for us to get things done that allows us to do really interesting and really great things and change organizations, right? And change the environments we live in to being far better than they are right now. It's the same thing. I mean, it's a personal journey. You need to find the right fit for you, because that kind of social aspect is not easy. It's not comfortable, and it's not necessary for all jobs. But if you want something that will really give you the ability to have more opportunities, it isn't going to be that you have the best teeth in the game from a technology standpoint. I wish I could say that I was an incredibly remarkable technologist. I can't admit to that, because I've been surrounded with incredibly remarkable technologists who really understand technology and are just incredible people. And I've been amazed by them every day, and I'm just not that good. Where I have been successful is that I can take the combination of those social skills and the combination of the knowledge that I do have, put those together and help people come to a win-win, right? And that shows a lot of value to companies.
So does this mean I have to dump my Highlander mentality of there can be only one? Man, you guys just blew my mind with that.
I guess it depends on if you're planning on chopping off my head and stealing my power, Nick. If the answer is yes, then my answer to that is yes, you do need to drop the Highlander methodology. I'm rather appreciative of my head where it is right now, and so is my family.
Yeah, I would do that to you.
If it means you're planning on wearing a kilt and carrying a sword, For personal reasons, I would actually like to see that. So yeah, go ahead and do that too. Just no heading, right? No beheading.
Yeah. Maybe for the Scottish Festival or something.
Well, you can just do it on the next podcast. I'm sure your listeners would love to have a few pictures of that action, just for blackmail later, right? I mean, I'd even store one of those for the occasional Twitter post for you. A tweet, I guess I should call that. I'm old school. I just Twitter posted. So, it's this is always the problem, right? My mother wisely gave me a piece of advice as a child, and I think it stuck with me ever since, is, son, there's always going to be someone better at that than you. And I said, what do you mean by that? And she said, anything. And I've taken that with me, that there are people that are so incredible at what they do. And like I said, I have really been blessed to have the opportunity, as I move from company to company, to be surrounded with so many people who have mentored me. I mean, I work for some incredible people right now at VMware, and the mentoring is just incredible. They teach me, they foster the opportunities for me to learn, and they push me to learn, right? And that's true of every job I've ever worked in my life. There's been someone there who pushes me to learn, to grow, and become better, whether it's the taco flipping or something else, right? It's somebody that has been there to kind of push me. And so I've just been thankful by all these incredible people who've made a huge difference in driving me forward in my life. And I'm surrounded with them constantly. And, they're kind enough occasionally to give me the opportunity or show up when I do a presentation and say, you did a good job, even though I probably just sucked at it. So I appreciate those people that are enhancing my life, and I think that we all have opportunities to have those people around us and learn from them.
Was that a decision point as far as choosing a place to work?
So I want to go to places where people like that exist. Yes. I want to go to the right place. For me, career choices are somewhat of a religious thing for me. I'm a pretty religious person. And so for me, I make it a matter of prayer on where I move and when I move. So that's ultimately the decision maker for me. But, from my perspective, going to VMware was a target for me for about becoming a VMware employee was a target for about 4 years of my career. And so I tried to make myself increasingly more attractive to VMware by getting more and more VMware certifications, doing the kind of work that was considered cutting edge for VMware, which would be cloud back then, and multi-cloud, and doing lots of private cloud type stuff. And so, yes, I did try to make myself attractive because, quite honestly, every interaction I'd had with VMware employees had pushed me to go to a new level or to learn something new or challenged me in a way that I didn't expect. And I've really valued that. And I, in a position now as a VMware employee who's done a fair number of interviews, I hope I'm able to share some of that was shared with me during those many interviews that I did with VMware. So yeah, I do target, but there's a lot more to my thought process than just that. I don't specifically look like that person's going to be my mentor, because I find that organizations are very, very dynamic. They change over time.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. If you target a specific group, the 4 or 5 people there might change in the next week or the next month or the next 6 months. Mm-hmm. But if you pick an organization where it's a general culture of being a certain way, of support, of mentorship, of development, then you have a better chance.
Yeah, I think if you cleanly look at your career, a lot of us will honestly say that we left jobs because we either liked or disliked our boss. We had a boss change and the boss made us miserable, so we moved on to a different job. Or we really liked this job, so we stayed at this job far longer than we should have because we loved that boss. Or that boss really, made us feel capable or helped us grow, or whatever it is we're passionate about. With larger companies, to me, it's about the company culture. I spent some time at IBM. I'm now with VMware, and I can tell you there's very different company cultures between the two. And during the time, I've had bosses change just about as often as I did at those jobs. But ultimately, the culture is what I look for in a company now, which sounds really weird because, I used to not even understand what the word culture means. And so I'll just define it for those that are here. For me, it's a set of beliefs and a set of practices. So it's not just saying that they believe in, personal time off and work-life balance, but practices that encourage those things from an organization, like giving you time off or, giving you the ability to go volunteer for a week like VMware does, paid week of volunteer service per year, right? So those are practices that support the belief system that they put in that ultimately line up to culture. So yeah, culture does make a big difference for me now because I work for the company culture, not for the individual boss like I used to.
Makes a lot of sense. I think that is a really great mic drop moment and a stopping point. But before we let you go for the evening, maybe you could tell us how to get in touch with you on social media, your blog. I don't think we mentioned the URL. So what are all those contact points?
Yeah, I always like the gratuitous pimping of my much media. So my blog is blog.jgriffiths. It's JGRIFFITHS.org. Been around for about 10 years. You're going to see my random ramblings. You're going to see lots of VMware stuff. You're going to see early on Linux and Solaris stuff and just about everything in between. So love to have more readers. And you can find me on Twitter at Gortees. It's GORTEES. Or just search for Joseph Griffiths and you'll probably find me. I did want to, make one kind of final statement. I'll call it my final mic drop, since you called the last one a mic drop, right? Which is, I don't want anyone to get discouraged by the conversation. I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed or like it's too much to take on. We talked about this being like an 11-year journey for me, right? To where I'm at right now. And I'm not a CEO or a vice president or anything. But I'm extremely happy with the job I have. I'm extremely happy with my career progression and where it's going right now. And it allows me to do something that I'm very passionate about, which is making sure that our customers are successful in their journeys and receive business value from it. Those are things that excite me personally to do it. I don't want people to think that they have to change overnight. I just want them to think about what one step can you take right now in practical world, go do a presentation. One, don't overwhelm yourself trying to say, I'm going to go do 50, right? Just do one thing, take one step, and grow by taking those steps that are uncomfortable, little ones. It's really the way to have a lot of success in your life and a lot of happiness is by learning something new and pushing yourself in new ways on a regular basis. And that may not be career. You may want to go climb a mountain. My 12-year-old daughter wants to climb Mount Everest. And I said, well, we better get on the rock wall pretty soon then, start working our way up there, right? I don't want people to become discouraged. There's hope, and you can be the best whatever you are right now. And there's nothing wrong with that either in a career journey. That is a career journey.
It's a journey with progression. Really like that message.
Yeah.
Joseph, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, guys, for letting me ramble on. I appreciate the invitation.
Sure. Fantastic stuff, Joseph. And I will say, if you need to take that one step, there's no reason you can't reach out to someone like Joseph. I know that I've reached out to him to follow up on, one of his VCP talks for some advice. He's offered to mentor other people in the community a number of times. So keep that in mind. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer questions if you have them. But, another thing you might do if you're taking that one step is send out that tweet to @NerdJourney to sign up for the John White School of Mentoring and get on the iteration train to get your career to the next level.
Every time I fall for that, I'm like, oh, he's about to say something like very profound. Nope, just the same joke.
Yeah, I just say something profound.
I'm sorry. I was too busy tweeting the Nerd Journey thing to get on the career progression thing with John White. Give me a minute. I just have to finish typing that out right now because I definitely want to get in on this.
Yeah, pricing and packaging to come, Joseph. Pricing and packaging to come.
That's beautiful. Actually, I think you gave me a title for my next book, but I'd have to steal it from you. You probably just copyrighted it. So,
is it pricing and packaging to come?
I was thinking the John White School of Management Tips, or the one you mentioned earlier that I've already forgotten. I got to listen to the re-recording. You actually had a really good title earlier, which is like, the introvert's guide to social interaction or something.
Yeah, right.
I really like that one. That was something I have some definitive thoughts on. Along with my everything in life can be compared to a monkey and the raining being a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, the longest title ever made.
And who wouldn't want to be mentored by somebody who's going to be a future author?
Yeah. Don't put that one on me. That's a goal that I haven't set yet. That's another year's goal. But to answer your question, your statement, I am more than happy to mentor or help anybody. Anyone who's seen me in interactions will know that I will dedicate a great amount of my personal time to helping people because it is one of the things that personally fulfills me. So happy to help anyone. Reach out. Twitter's probably your best bet. I handle it like my email, so you're only going to get a response once every 3 days from me because otherwise the social media and I don't get along. So just FYI.
Every 3 days? I thought they said 24-hour turnaround.
That's email. Corporate email.
Okay.
Yeah, we won't give that one out.
Yeah. You got to meet me in person at one of my many live events to get my card so you can get my email to blast me.
There you go. Joseph, once again, thanks so much. We'll have you back on at some point in time in the future, and we'll tell more stories.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
You too.
Take care. Wow, Nick, what a generous guy. That was a really fun interview, man.
I thought so. But I'll tell you what, John, first tacos and now peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, that makes me hungry. Hungry for more Nerd Journey, that is. And if you are too, make sure you subscribe and give us a positive review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. We want to know if we're being helpful and are always looking for interesting questions to ponder. We're collectively on Twitter at Nerd Journey.
Yes. Farewell, listeners. Tune in next time as the journey continues. I'm John White at VJourneyman for Nick Cordy at Network Nerd _ signing off.
Adios.
Wow. What a generous guy. That was a really fun interview, Nick.
Absolutely it was. But man, first tacos and now peanut butter and sandwiches? I messed it up.